The storm didn't wait for me. It swallowed the mountains first, then the road, then me. Rain knifed sideways across the windshield, blurring the narrow forest trail into a smear of black and silver. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel as the tires skidded over wet mud, my pulse thundering louder than the storm outside. "Come on, come on," I whispered at the car, as if it could sense the panic clawing up my spine. It wasn't just the storm that chased me, it was the memory of my father's voice, cold, stern, final, telling me not to come back. It was the job I'd lost, the betrayal I hadn't seen coming, the life that felt like it had collapsed in on itself overnight. I wasn't running toward anything. I was running away. The forest road curved sharply, too sharply. The headlights washed across something. No, someone, lying on the ground. A man. I gasped and slammed the brakes. The car skidded, fishtailed, and stopped just inches from him. For a moment, lightning froze the world in silver light. A figure, tall, broad-shouldered, half-slumped over the mud, clothes torn, blood streaking across his bare forearm. He wasn't unconscious. Not fully. His chest rose and fell, deep and uneven. I swallowed hard and shoved open my door. Wind ripped it from my hand. Rain drenched me instantly, freezing against my skin as I stumbled toward him. "Hey, hey, can you hear me?" My voice cracked, swallowed by thunder. He lifted his head slightly, and even through the darkness, even through the storm, I felt it. The strange electric pull. His eyes snapped open, glowing a shade too bright to be human. An unreal, molten gold that pierced straight through the rain, straight through my fear. My breath hitched. No one's eyes look like that. He stared at me like he'd been waiting for me. "Don't," he rasped, voice hoarse, rough, almost animal. "Don't touch me." But then he collapsed forward, catching himself with one arm in the mud. Instinct overrode fear. I dropped to my knees in front of him. "You're hurt. You need help." "No." His voice rumbled, low and warning. "You shouldn't be here." Lightning cracked again, illuminating the tree line over his shoulder. Something moved there. Fast. Massive. My heart slammed into my ribs. Not a bear. Not a deer. Something else. I grabbed the man's arm. "We need to get you out of the road, now." He flinched at my touch, his muscles tightening as if my hand burned him, but he didn't pull away. In fact, for a split, trembling moment, he leaned into me. His skin was burning hot despite the icy rain. "Please," I whispered. "Let me help you." His breath shuddered out, the sound of a man losing a battle with himself. Then, with surprising strength for someone injured, he pushed up to his feet. His hand clamped around my wrist, fast, instinctive, powerful. The moment his skin touched mine, heat shot through me like a living flame. My breath left my lungs. He stiffened too, eyes widening, jaw tightening, as though he felt it just as intensely. "What was that?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He just stared at me, chest rising and falling, the storm swirling around us in a furious circle, but his grip didn't loosen. Another howl ripped through the forest. Not quite human, not quite animal. The man's jaw clenched. "Get in the car." "What? Now?" Something crashed through the underbrush. Closer. Much closer. He grabbed my arm and all but lifted me toward the driver's side door. I scrambled inside, barely able to catch my breath. Before I could reach over and unlock the passenger side, he was already there, moving impossibly fast, opening the door and sliding in. His body took up the entire space beside me, tall, broad, too big for the small car. Heat radiated off him like a furnace. I could barely form a single thought. "What's going on? What was that thing? Why were you in the road?" My voice tangled. He didn't look at me. He stared into the forest, muscles wired tight. "Drive," he growled. I flinched at the raw power in his voice, but I turned the key, and the engine coughed back to life. As the car lurched forward, the man closed his eyes, leaning his head back against the seat. Rainwater ran down his face like tears. In the dashboard light, I saw him clearly for the first time. Dark hair plastered to his forehead. A strong jaw dusted with stubble. A long, angry claw mark ripping through the side of his ribcage, already bruising violently. "What happened to you?" I whispered. His eyes opened, glowing faint amber even in the dark. "You wouldn't believe me," he said quietly. "Try me." His lips curved, barely. Not amusement, something sadder. "You should have left me in the road." "Too bad," I shot back, adrenaline making me reckless. "You're stuck with me now." His gaze slid to mine. The storm outside disappeared. His eyes held something. Pain, yes, but something else. Something raw. Something ancient. Something that made my pulse stutter. He inhaled sharply through his nose, expression tightening. "You smell like—" He cut himself off. My entire body shivered. "Like what?" He didn't answer. Instead, he opened the passenger door. "What are you doing?" I slammed the brakes again as he stepped out into the storm. "In here, you're a target," he said without looking back. Rain soaked his shirt instantly, outlining every line of his powerful frame. "Stay on the road. Don't stop for anyone, not even me." "What are you talking about? You're bleeding. You can't just walk away in the middle of a storm." He turned. Lightning lit the forest behind him. And for a heartbeat, just one, I saw the truth in the shadows. A massive wolf, watching us from between the trees. Eyes glowing red, fur dark as the storm itself. My breath caught. The man stepped between me and the creature with deliberate, deadly purpose. That deep magnetic pull surged again, painful, intoxicating, and I felt it echo through my bones, through my pulse, through the air between us. He looked back at me, eyes softening in a way that contradicted everything dangerous around us. "Drive," he said quietly. "I'll find you." Find me? But he was already walking straight into the dark. Straight toward the monstrous wolf. Straight toward death. Or something worse. The storm swallowed him whole. And even as terror gripped me, even as I pressed my foot to the accelerator, even as the forest blurred past in streaks of black and silver, I felt something impossible settle inside my chest. A promise. A pull. A connection I couldn't explain. His touch had felt like home, even before I knew his name. The storm eased only when I was miles away, if the forest could even be measured in miles. Every twist of the road felt the same. Every tree leaned in too close, and every shadow felt alive. My breath came shallow and uneven, my hands still shaking on the wheel long after the man, no, the stranger, had vanished into the dark. He said he'd find me. Why did that sound less like a threat, and more like a truth carved into my bones? The storm clouds thinned, letting moonlight bleed through in thin, trembling ribbons. That should have calmed me. Moonlight usually did. But tonight, it only made things worse, because when the rain stopped, the howls began. Not close, not far. Just there, like something unseen pacing alongside the car. I drove with my foot pressed so hard against the gas pedal that my leg cramped. Finally, the road widened into the outskirts of a small mountain town, Cold Ash. I remembered the name from the cracked map I'd thrown into the glove compartment earlier. A single streetlight flickered overhead, casting a pale halo onto the wet pavement. A diner sat at the end of the road, still open despite the late hour, warm light glowing in its windows. My gas tank was nearly empty. My phone had no signal, and my nerves were frayed to the point of breaking. I pulled into the lot and just sat there, both hands still locked around the steering wheel. My pulse wouldn't slow, my breath wouldn't steady. His eyes, gold, bright, impossible, kept replaying in my mind. So did the shape behind him, that hulking silhouette, that low, vibrating growl. I swallowed hard. What the hell was that? No answer, just rainwater dripping from the car roof. Eventually, my muscles couldn't take the tension anymore. I forced myself out of the car and headed inside. The diner smelled like coffee and fried onions, warm, familiar scents that hit me with a strange ache. A few people sat in corner booths, their faces tired from the storm. An older waitress glanced up, her expression softening when she saw me. "Rough night, sweetheart?" she asked, sliding a menu across the counter. "Something like that," I murmured, taking a seat. She poured coffee before I could ask. Steaming hot, too strong, absolutely perfect. But as soon as the mug touched my hands, a prickling sensation crawled across my skin. A feeling of being watched. Not by the tired locals, not by the waitress. Something else. Something outside. I stiffened. Slowly, I looked toward the window. At first, I saw nothing but the wet gleam of parked cars and the dark outline of fir trees. But then, movement. A shape. Low. Large. Watching. My heart slammed into my ribs. A wolf. No, too big, too still, too focused on me. My skin turned cold. The waitress glanced out the window, too. "Damn strays," she muttered. "Must have been pushed down from the ridge by the storm." She didn't see what I saw. Or maybe she just didn't want to. I tore my gaze away, gripping the mug so hard I worried I might crack it. The wolf's eyes, unblinking, almost human, felt like they were peeling back layers inside me. I tried to breathe. I tried to relax. I tried to pretend that tonight was just a nightmare. But everything inside me screamed that it wasn't. The bell above the diner door jingled. A gust of cold air swept in. I didn't turn right away. I didn't want to, because some bone-deep instinct already knew. He'd found me. Slowly, I turned my head. He stood in the doorway, wet from the storm, shoulders broad and imposing, his dark hair dripping onto his forehead. He must have changed clothes. Black shirt, dark jeans, but blood still stained the edges of his left sleeve. His gaze locked onto mine the moment he stepped inside. Heat shot through me like lightning. My breath caught. My pulse picked up. My hands went numb. He looked dangerous, and yet not unsafe. Not to me. Fear and relief twisted together in my chest until I couldn't tell which feeling belonged to which breath. He walked toward me, steps measured, predatory, controlled far too tightly for someone who looked exhausted and wounded. For someone who should have been barely standing. The diner went eerily quiet as he passed. The waitress straightened. "Sir, can I help?" "No," he murmured without breaking eye contact with me. "I'm here for her." My stomach dropped. He reached the counter, stopping just inches from where I sat. The closeness made the air too warm, too thick. The scent of rain and pine and something deep and masculine filled my lungs. And then he spoke, voice low and rough. "You didn't listen." "Listen," I echoed. "You told me to leave you on the side of the road, or to keep driving. Which, by the way, I did." His jaw flexed. "I told you not to stop for me." I swallowed. "So, should I apologize for not letting you bleed out on the highway?" He exhaled sharply. "You shouldn't have been there at all." "Well, I was." His golden eyes darkened. The muscle in his cheek ticked, as if he were wrestling with something he couldn't say. He leaned in slightly. "You're not safe," he said quietly. "Not alone. Not tonight." A chill skittered across my skin. "And you are?" I whispered. "Safer than what's hunting you." My throat tightened. Is that what was in the forest? His gaze flicked to the window, toward the shape I'd seen watching, then back to me. Yes. The word was soft. Too soft. Too dangerous. I shivered. He noticed. His eyes softened a fraction, and he lowered his voice in a way that felt almost intimate. I didn't mean to frighten you. Well, I murmured, you're doing an excellent job anyway. His lips twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. Then something changed in his expression. The air around him shifted, sharpened. He moved closer, close enough that his warmth brushed my skin. Tell me your name, he said. My heartbeat staggered. Why? Because I need to know who I nearly died for. The diner fell away. The clatter of dishes, the hum of old lights, the storm-softened world outside. It was just him, his voice, his heat, his impossible presence, and the way he looked at me like knowing my name was vital, urgent, necessary. I swallowed, chest tight. Alara. He closed his eyes briefly as if the name did something to him. When he opened them, they glowed faintly again. Alara, he repeated, voice a low rumble. He stopped. His jaw clenched, his breath hitched. Then, something outside growled. The sound vibrated the windows. He stiffened instantly. The light above us flickered. Alara, he said, his tone suddenly sharp and commanding. Listen to me carefully. You need to... Glass shattered. The windows exploded inward, and the monstrous wolf I'd seen outside lunged straight toward us. The stranger grabbed me, pulling me against his chest, shielding my body with his own, as the creature crashed through the counter, snarling, teeth glinting like silvered knives. Chaos erupted. People screamed. Chairs toppled. The waitress dove behind the register. The stranger's arms tightened around me, and then I felt something beneath his skin. Heat. Power. A tremor that wasn't fear. A shift. Alara, he whispered, breath hot against my ear. Close your eyes. The air smelled of wet fur and electricity. I dared to open my eyes just a fraction. The diner was a wreck. Chairs lay overturned. Broken glass glittered across the floor, and the storm's fury had leaked in with shards of water-soaked light. But I wasn't looking at the destruction. I was looking at him. He had changed. Not fully human, not fully wolf, but something in between. His muscles rippled under his soaked shirt, movements precise, controlled, and impossibly fast. The golden glow of his eyes had dimmed slightly, but the intensity remained, unrelenting, dangerous, magnetic. The wolf, or whatever it had been, was pinned outside, growling, but hesitant now, as if it sensed the difference in power. He tightened his hold around me, voice low, almost a growl. Stay behind me, don't move. My chest hammered, not from fear exactly, but from the closeness, the heat radiating off him, the subtle pull I couldn't name. I wanted answers. I needed them. But the danger made every word tremble on my lips. Who? What are you? I asked finally, my voice barely audible over the storm. His jaw clenched. You don't want to know. Try me, I whispered. He looked at me, and for a moment the golden light in his eyes softened, conflicted, painful. Something in him pulled me closer even as the world screamed at me to run. I'm not like other men, he admitted finally. I don't belong in your world. And you... His gaze flicked to me, sharp, assessing. You shouldn't be here. Too late, I shot back, heart stuttering. I already am. A growl rumbled deep in his chest, low and warning. His eyes flicked toward the broken diner window, toward the night beyond. That same creature, the wolf, was still out there, circling, testing, watching. Did you see it too? I asked, voice trembling despite myself. He hesitated. You saw it. I nodded. It. It wasn't normal. He exhaled sharply, jaw tight. Nothing about tonight is normal. Something in the way he said it, the certainty, the darkness beneath his words, made my skin prickle. I realized, as fear and fascination coiled inside me, that I was standing at the edge of something I couldn't comprehend. Something far larger than me, far older, far dangerous. Why did you help me? I asked, and my voice sounded smaller than I intended. Why save me in the storm if you didn't want me here? He looked down at me, almost tenderly, though his body still radiated lethal strength. Because I couldn't let you die. Not like that. Not alone. Heat shot through me at his words, not just the warmth of his body pressed against mine, but something deeper. Something that made my pulse feel like it might explode in my chest. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the storm outside subsided. The rain eased into a light drizzle, the wind softened, and the world seemed quieter. Too quiet. He didn't release me. His golden eyes studied me like he could read the very thoughts in my mind. And that, more than the danger, more than the storm, made me shiver. Do you do this often? I asked hesitantly. Fight. Things. Like that? His lips twitched. Almost a smirk, almost a warning. More than I care to admit. I wanted to ask more. I wanted to understand. I wanted to know why my chest ached when he was near, why the hair on my arms stood at attention, why my instincts screamed both run and stay. But before I could, he spoke again. Voice low, resonant. Look at me. I did. He was beautiful in a dangerous, primal way, the kind of beauty that made the hairs on your neck stand on end. And beneath that, beauty. Something raw, something untamed, something I didn't dare name but couldn't ignore. You're curious, he said, reading my thoughts, and that curiosity will get you hurt. I'm already hurt, I whispered. Physically, emotionally. Doesn't mean I should stop trying to understand. He studied me for a long moment. Then, with a sigh that sounded like it carried centuries of restraint, he said, You're different. Different? Yes. His voice lowered, almost reverent. You're not like the others. You feel things most humans don't. You notice what others overlook. You survive when others would die. Something deep in my chest tightened. And that's supposed to mean what? That I should be careful around you. I frowned. Careful? Why? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned his gaze back to the night, to the shadowy tree line beyond the diner. His body stiffened. The world you live in, it's not safe. Not for someone like you. I swallowed. And yet, you keep showing up. His eyes, golden, glowing faintly even in the dim diner light, met mine again. And for the first time, I felt it. The undeniable pull. A connection that wasn't just magnetic, but fated. Because I don't have a choice, he said quietly, almost to himself. Not when you're here, not when I can feel it. Feel what? My voice trembled, caught somewhere between curiosity and something much deeper. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, jagged piece of something. Stone? Bone? I couldn't tell through the dim light. Keep this. Trust me. It'll help you stay safe. I took it hesitantly. It was heavier than it looked. Cold. Smooth. But the moment my fingers closed around it, heat flared through me. Startling. Intimate. You don't explain things easily, do you? I asked, voice soft. No. His answer was blunt, final. Not yet. Not until I know you'll survive the truth. And that That was a statement far more terrifying than any wolf or storm, because deep in my bones, I knew the truth would change everything. Even as my pulse raced, even as fear and fascination battled inside me, I knew one thing for certain. I was already entangled in him, in his world, in his danger, in the magnetic pull I didn't yet understand, but already couldn't resist. And somewhere beneath the storm, beneath the wolf, beneath the chaos, I realized with a shiver of both fear and longing, the night had only just begun. The diner smelled of wet wool, coffee, and faint smoke from the storm's lightning strike outside. I still clutched the strange talisman he'd pressed into my hand, its cold edges warming slowly against my skin. My pulse hadn't slowed since the wolf attack, if that's what it could be called, and every nerve in my body remained taut, alive, buzzing with an intensity I couldn't ignore. He sat across from me in a corner booth, drenched and tense, eyes flicking constantly toward the windows. Even sitting, he radiated that raw, controlled strength that had terrified me and enthralled me in equal measure. I wanted to understand him. I wanted to trust him, and a voice deep inside whispered that I might, if I survived long enough. Do you, I began cautiously, do you always do whatever that was outside? His head lifted slowly, amber eyes narrowing slightly. What was outside? The wolf. The thing. Whatever that was, it was hunting me. He exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding back a storm within himself. That was complicated. Complicated doesn't explain why it chased me, I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. Or why you risked your life, maybe more than once, to save me. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he leaned back, one arm draped across the booth's backrest, and studied me. There was something unreadable in his expression, something that flickered between warning and something warmer. I didn't choose to involve you, he said quietly. Not in the beginning, but once I did, I couldn't let you get hurt. Not like that. I swallowed. My throat felt dry. Why me? He stared at the table for a long moment, jaw tightening. Then he finally looked up, eyes catching the light in a way that made them almost golden fire. Because there's something about you, something I can't ignore. My chest ached. Not from fear this time. Something softer, something more dangerous started to coil around my ribs and stomach. Longing, curiosity, the sense that my life had shifted in a way I couldn't take back. I wanted to ask more, so many questions, but he rose suddenly, breaking the fragile calm. I need to see something, he said, voice firm but low. It's important. For your safety. I frowned. Important how? And what exactly do you mean by safety? Some things you don't understand yet, but you will, if we survive tonight. Before I could argue, he rose and I realized how big he really was. Standing, he seemed impossibly tall, every muscle taut and controlled. And yet, in a way that made my pulse stutter, he looked almost protective. Come with me, he said. I hesitated. Part of me screamed to run, to escape back to the comfort of mundane human life. But something deeper, the pull I couldn't explain, kept me rooted. My legs obeyed before my brain did. We moved out of the diner into the drizzle, the streets slick and shining under the faint glow of street lamps. He kept his distance, but not too far. Close enough that I felt his presence like a tether, anchoring me. I need to show you something, he said again, his voice quieter now. Something you can't see from here. I followed him down a narrow alley, the sound of rain tapping a rhythm against the brick walls. My heart hammered. Not just from fear, but from anticipation, the same impossible pull I'd felt the first moment he touched me. Then, he stopped. And in the dim light I saw it. The edge of the forest, dark and alive, shivering in the drizzle. And on the far edge, the same hulking silhouette I'd seen earlier. The wolf, or creature, was there, watching, waiting. I froze. "Do you see it?" he asked softly. I nodded, unable to tear my eyes away. He exhaled slowly and stepped closer, close enough that his shoulder brushed mine. "You have to trust me," he said. "I can keep you safe, but you have to believe I will." I swallowed. Every instinct screamed caution, but every fiber of me wanted to trust him. To lean into the warmth and safety I felt radiating from him, even as the world outside threatened chaos. "How?" I whispered. "How can I trust someone I barely know, and who can do that?" He glanced at me, his gaze softening for the briefest moment. "Because I choose to. Because I made a choice the moment I saw you lying in the storm. And because I don't have the luxury of letting go." The words weren't a promise. Not exactly. They were more a declaration, a tether between us. And I felt it. Deep in my chest, deep in my bones, something shifted. I wanted to step back, but I didn't. Instead, I let myself breathe in the rain-soaked air, let myself feel the faint heat radiating off him, let myself believe, just for a moment, that maybe I could survive this. And when he reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from my face, I didn't flinch. Not completely, because in that brief, intimate gesture, in the way his fingers lingered just a moment longer than necessary, I realized something terrifying and thrilling. I wanted him to touch me. I wanted him to protect me. I wanted to belong, even if only for a heartbeat. "Come with me," he said again, this time with less force and more weight. "I'll explain everything. And then, you can decide if you want to survive tonight with me." I nodded. My fingers closed around the talisman in my pocket, gripping it like a lifeline. And when he offered his hand, I took it. Because despite everything, the storm, the wolf, the fear, the impossible pull, I trusted him. At least, enough to follow. The forest awaited, and so did whatever secrets he carried. The forest was alive with sounds I couldn't name. Rain-soaked leaves whispered under unseen feet, branches groaned under the weight of storm-soaked water, and the air smelled sharp and electric. Every sense felt heightened, every nerve tuned to the slightest shift in the darkness. He led me deeper, his hand never leaving mine. The warmth of his skin radiated reassurance, but the pull between us, magnetic, impossible, made my chest ache. I wanted to look at him. I wanted to memorize every detail, every sharp line, every dangerous shadow in his golden eyes. But I also wanted to look away, to deny the pulse of desire threading through me. "Stop!" His voice was sudden, cutting through the rain and wind like a blade. I froze. Ahead, a low growl rolled through the forest. Not a single creature. Multiple. Low, predatory, and coordinated. My stomach dropped. "What is it?" I whispered, clutching his sleeve. "They're not normal wolves," he said. His eyes flicked to mine, intensity coiling through him. "They're hunters." I swallowed hard, fear clawing at my throat. "Hunters? Who? What do they want?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he scanned the tree line, muscles taut, jaw tight. Then he whispered almost under his breath, "They know you're here. They know about the bond." "The bond?" I echoed, panic rising. His gaze softened briefly, just for me. "The pull, the connection I feel. You may not understand it yet, but they do. And it makes you a target." I tried to process the words, but another growl cut through the forest. A warning. Not far away. Too close. "Run!" he commanded. "Run, but no talking." He released my hand for the first time, his body moving fluidly, instinctively, between me and the shadows that crept closer. Stay behind me, follow my lead. The forest was treacherous. Mud sucked at my boots, roots threatened to trip me, and rain blurred every shape into shadow. My heart pounded, not just from exertion, but from the way he moved. Always 2 steps ahead, every motion precise, protective, impossible. A figure darted through the trees, a wolf-like creature, larger than any natural animal, muscles coiling, eyes glinting crimson. It lunged. He intercepted it in a blur, shifting mid-motion. Not entirely human, not entirely wolf. The transformation was fast, brutal, and awe-inspiring. I stumbled back, heart hammering, breath caught in my throat, as he faced the predator in the moonlit clearing. Stay back. His voice was a growl that rattled the air, low and commanding. I did. But I didn't move far. My body stayed rooted, watching, caught between fear and fascination, unable to tear my eyes away. The predator lunged again. He met it with raw, animalistic strength, hands tearing, claws slashing, golden eyes locking with red. The sound was horrifying, brutal, and mesmerizing. And then, just as suddenly, it was over. The predator retreated into the forest with a scream that echoed off the trees, leaving him standing there, bruised, bloody, breathing hard, magnificent, and terrifying. I ran to him. My legs moved before my mind could protest. Are you okay?" He turned to me, chest heaving, and for a moment the danger melted from his features, replaced by something softer, almost human. "I'm fine," he said, though the truth lingered in the lines of his jaw and the tension in his shoulders. "You're hurt," I whispered, reaching out to touch the cut along his forearm. He flinched, just slightly, but enough to make my stomach twist. "I said I'm fine," he repeated, voice firmer now, commanding, alpha. And yet, there was something else, something unspoken, lingering in the space between us. A connection, a tether I could feel in every pulse, every breath, every heartbeat. I wanted to step closer. I wanted to reach him. But instinct, old, human, cautious instinct, kept me at the edge of his circle. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, voice trembling. "That you could do that? That you're dangerous?" His lips curved, almost a smirk, though his eyes were dark, serious. "Yes, and yes, but that's not the half of it. And if I told you everything now, you might not survive it." My chest tightened. "And I don't survive it either if I don't know who or what you are. You can't protect me from the unknown if you won't tell me what I'm facing." He exhaled, tense, conflicted. Then he reached out, brushing rain-soaked hair from my forehead. "I will tell you, but not yet. You have to trust me. Trust that I will keep you safe. That's all you need right now." I wanted to argue, to demand answers. But the truth was undeniable. I did trust him. Not fully, not completely, but enough to follow. Enough to let the pull, magnetic, insistent, impossible, thread through me, binding me to him in a way that frightened and thrilled me all at once. Another howl shattered the silence. Closer this time. My stomach dropped. He stiffened beside me, gaze locking on the shadows. "They'll be back," he murmured. "Soon. And stronger." My hand found his again, tentatively, instinctively. He didn't pull away this time. Instead, he interlaced our fingers briefly, a touch that sent heat spiraling through me. I wanted to pull back. I wanted to resist. But I didn't. Because in that touch, I felt something undeniable. Protection. Desire. Connection. Something deeper than reason. Beyond fear. Beyond logic. I started, but he shook his head. "Later," he said. "I won't let them hurt you. Not now. Not ever. But you must follow me. Trust me. And I did. We moved together into the forest, shadows clinging to us like a living thing. Every step carried danger. Every breath was a gamble. But every step also carried me closer to him, closer to the pull I couldn't name, closer to the truth I might not survive, but couldn't resist. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying and intoxicating. I didn't just want to survive. I wanted him, even if that desire might destroy me. The storm had eased, but the forest felt even more dangerous in its aftermath. A world washed clean, too quiet, too watchful. Every drop of water that slid from leaf to leaf sounded loud enough to shatter the silence. My breaths rose in pale clouds in the cold air as we moved deeper beneath the canopy, his stride long and powerful, mine struggling to keep pace. But he never looked away from the darkness around us. He listened, every muscle taut, every sense sharpened. The predators were gone for now, but not for long, and we both felt it. The clearing we reached felt carved out of the world itself. Ancient stones forming a crude half-circle, moss climbing their edges like the ruins of some forgotten altar. The moon, pale and broken through the clouds, illuminated his face, sharp, angular, too beautiful, too wild. He stopped walking, but he didn't turn to me. Not yet. My breath hitched. Why are we here? Because I can't protect you properly if you don't know what I am. His voice was quiet, too quiet. It rumbled low in his chest, threaded with something like fear and resignation. A shiver ran down my spine. He wasn't afraid of the hunters. He wasn't afraid of the dark. He was afraid of me, of what I'd think, of what I'd do, once I saw what he really was. Look at me, he said finally. I did. His eyes, usually gold, were dimmer now, flickering like candlelight in a dying breeze. Not human, not comfortably so. I stepped closer without meaning to, drawn to him like gravity was a command, and my body understood it better than my mind ever could. What happened back there? I whispered. That wasn't normal. You fought that thing with your bare hands. You changed. Just for a moment. Like, I swallowed. Like you weren't just a man. He closed his eyes. Ilara? My name on his lips sounded like both prayer and warning. Once I show you, you can't take it back. You'll see me differently. You'll see all of this differently. I already do, I said softly. His jaw tensed, but not enough to understand the danger. The wind rushed through the clearing, carrying a scent I couldn't identify. Metallic, ancient, like moonlit stone and something older. I need the truth, I said. I can't keep walking blind. A bitter laugh slipped from him. You think you want the truth. You think you're ready to face it. But when you see what I am, that fear you've been holding back, it'll swallow everything else. I stepped closer, slow, deliberate. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. You saved my life, I whispered. Twice. Nothing you show me will make me forget that. He finally turned to face me fully, and the world tilted. His pupils were blown wide, gold swallowed by black until only a thin ring of amber remained, a feral halo glowing in the moonlight. His breath came faster, mist curling from his lips. His fingers twitched like he was holding something back. His whole body trembled, an earthquake barely contained by skin. Ilara, he said, and this time the sound was wrong, too deep, too resonant, vibrating through the ground. Step back. No, it's not safe. You are. His expression cracked. Pain, conflict, longing. You don't know that. Yes, I breathed. I do. A sound tore from him, a guttural growl choked off at the end. He staggered back, gripping one of the ancient stones like it alone kept him tethered to his human form. I can feel you, he rasped, voice raw. The pull, your scent, The bond waking. It's too soon. It's too strong. If I lose control, if I shift near you, show me, I said. He froze. Ilara, show me what you are. The wind died. The forest stilled. Even the moon seemed to hold its breath. For a moment, he looked at me like he saw everything inside me: fear, courage, curiosity, desire, and weighed them all in silence. Then something in him broke. Not violently, quietly, fatally. Don't scream, he whispered. Please. His body convulsed. Not like a man falling, like a creature transforming. Bones cracked under skin, muscles rippling in waves. His spine arched, elongating, his shoulders bulging as fur burst across them in dark silver streaks. His hands twisted, fingers lengthening into claws. I stumbled back, not from fear, but awe, heart slamming against my ribs, breath caught in my throat as the man I'd followed into the woods disappeared beneath a creature of myth and moonlight. In less than a heartbeat, he stood before me, massive, towering, a wolf and a man woven together into something both terrifying and breathtaking. His fur glimmered under the fractured moonlight, streaked with stormy silver. His claws dug into the earth. His breath came out in steaming, heavy bursts. But his eyes were still him. Golden, fierce, searching for me. I didn't move. He lowered his head, ears back, a sound rumbling in his chest that wasn't a threat. It was fear, hesitation, a plea. Slowly, so slowly, I lifted my hand. He stiffened. Every muscle coiled. Claws dug deeper into the soil. Ilara. The voice wasn't fully human. It wasn't fully wolf. It was a gravelly echo inside my mind, threaded directly into my heartbeat. Don't. I'm not afraid, I whispered. Then I touched him. His fur was warm, so warm it shocked me, softer than it looked. My fingers trembled as I brushed along his muzzle, his cheek, the curve where his jaw would have been if he were human. His eyes fluttered shut, a shudder rippling through his massive frame. It felt like touching a storm. It felt like touching fate. He leaned into my hand, a slow, instinctive nuzzle that stole my breath. My chest ached with something I didn't have words for. Connection, recognition, home. When he pulled back, slowly forcing his body to shrink, shift, reassemble, I watched the transformation in reverse. Bones knitting, fur retreating, claws retracting until he stood before me as a man again, chest heaving, naked emotion etched into every line of him. You should run from me, he whispered. I won't. You should, he insisted, voice breaking. Because now you know what I am. And now every hunter out there will smell the bond waking between us. They will come for you first. They will use you against me. They will tear apart anything I care about. I stepped closer again. Then stay close, I said softly. His breath hitched, his eyes closed. Something inside him finally gave in. Ilara, my name was a confession, a surrender. A bond like this, it only forms once in a lifetime, if it forms at all. And for us? I whispered. His eyes opened, gold burning like fire. For us it already has. For a long moment after his confession, neither of us spoke. The forest's silence felt heavier than before, thick enough to crush breath, thick enough to make my heart pound too loudly in the hollow of my chest. His words, for us, it already has, hung between us like a thread of gold, fragile and glowing. A bond, a once-in-a-lifetime tether, fate written in blood and moonlight. I didn't understand all of it, but I understood the way my pulse raced when he looked at me, the heat that anchored me to him, the ache that pulled me closer even when fear told me to stay away. He stepped back first. Not far. Just enough to make the cold rush in. Ilara, he murmured, the softness gone, his voice turning sharp with decision. You shouldn't have seen the shift, not this soon. But you showed me, I whispered. No. His jaw tightened. You asked. I should have said no. I should have walked away, before this bond had time to take root. I felt the words like a blade sliding beneath skin. You said it already has, I said quietly. So why? Because bonds can be broken, he cut in, if you sever them early, if you distance yourself. My breath caught. Distance. It's the only way to keep you alive. There it was. The betrayal wrapped in protection. The sacrifice he was already trying to make. You're pushing me away, I said, realizing it in real time, how he backed up a second step, how he wouldn't meet my eyes, how guilt carved itself deep into his expression. I have to, he said. It's the only way to keep the hunters from using you. Anger flared hot and bright in my chest. You think leaving me alone in this forest is safer, with things like that out there? The pack will take care of it, he said. Your pack? I snapped. The same pack you said would kill a human who gets close to you? Yes. Wonderful. That sounds so much safer. A muscle ticked in his jaw. They won't touch you. Because of you? His silence confirmed it. The bond. He was already protecting me with his life, and he thought walking away would protect me more. I don't need distance, I said, stepping closer despite the tension rolling off him in palpable waves. I need answers. I need you to stop disappearing every time things get... He grabbed my shoulders suddenly, hands hot and trembling. Ilara. His voice was a rough whisper. His forehead lowered until it rested against mine. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. If I stay close to you, if I keep letting the bond pull at me, I won't be able to control the shift. Not around you. Not when I can feel you like this. Like what? I whispered, breath unsteady. His voice cracked. Like you're already mine. A tremor ran through me, heat, fear, longing. But before I could speak, he stepped back. No. He tore himself away, and the forest swallowed his warmth like it had been waiting. I'm taking you to the cabin, he said suddenly, tone clipped, controlled. After that, I'm leaving. For a while. The words hit harder than claws. You're leaving? My throat tightened. He didn't look at me. If I stay, the bond solidifies. It strengthens. It becomes unbreakable. And then, if the hunters come, they'll rip you apart to weaken me. I can't let that happen. So you think abandoning me will weaken the hunter's interest? No. His gaze slid to mine, raw and honest. But it will weaken me. My breath stalled. He thought he was the danger, not the world around us. We can figure this out together, I whispered. You don't have to... Ilara. His voice carried finality now, cold and decisive. I made my choice. It felt like the ground gave out beneath me. Don't do this, I whispered. He didn't move. Please. Something flickered behind his eyes. Agony, longing, but he crushed it with a single blink. Your safety isn't negotiable. He turned, and the world felt colder the second his back faced me. I followed in silence, heart heavy with every step, the forest swallowing the sound like it too, mourned something being severed. He didn't touch me this time, didn't speak. His distance was a wound I felt physically, like something ripping thread by delicate thread inside my chest. Eventually, we reached a small cabin, old, wooden, tucked into a stand of cedar trees. Smoke curled from a chimney as though someone had recently inhabited it. The windows glowed faintly with firelight. He opened the door for me. The warmth spilled out, but it didn't reach me. Not really. This place is safe. For how long? I whispered. As long as I'm gone. I flinched. He noticed. His jaw clenched, but he still refused to step inside. There's food. Blankets. You'll be warm. The hunters won't cross this boundary. They'd expose themselves. And you? I asked softly. Will you come back? Something flickered in his expression. Hope? Grief? I couldn't tell. Ilara, don't wait for me. I already am, I whispered. He froze. For a heartbeat, it felt like the world would tilt back in my favor, that he'd step inside, say he'd stay, admit the bond was stronger than fear. But he didn't. He backed away. Goodbye, he said, voice breaking on the last syllable. The door shut between us. I stood there, breath trembling, eyes burning, listening to the sound of his footsteps disappear into the night. Slow at first, then faster, then silent. The bond didn't sever. It ached, pulled, burned. I wrapped my arms around myself, sinking to the floor as the fire crackled behind me. I didn't know if he'd return. I didn't know if he could break a bond that had already begun to root itself into my soul. But I knew one thing with painful clarity. He thought leaving was protecting me. But all he'd done was leave me vulnerable, alone, in a cabin in the woods, just as the hunters began to circle. The cabin creaked like an old ship in a storm, wind clawing at the wooden walls as if desperate to get inside. I wrapped a blanket tighter around myself, staring at the fire that flickered in uneasy rhythms, like it knew something I didn't. Hours had passed. Or maybe only minutes. Time didn't feel real without him here. My body felt hollow, like he'd taken the air with him when he left. The bond pulsed low in my chest, a phantom ache, a tug in a direction I couldn't follow. I should have slept. I should have eaten. Instead, I listened. To the storm. To the woods. To the too sharp, too quiet silence underneath it all. A branch snapped outside. I jolted upright. Another. Then another. Too heavy to be wind. Too deliberate to be an animal. My breath stopped. Hello? My voice was small. Fragile. No answer. But something moved outside the window. A shadow. Wide. Slow. Watching. My heart thundered. Is someone out there? Still no answer. And then, a low growl. Not his. Not protective. Not gentle. Predatory. I backed away from the door, pulse in my throat, hand trembling as I grabbed the closest thing I could use as a weapon, a cast-iron fireplace poker. The cabin suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Another growl. Closer this time. I swallowed hard, fear slicing down my spine. Go away, I whispered, even though I knew whispering wouldn't help. Please. The growl deepened, shifted, turned into a snarl that rattled the window panes. Then, silence. A silence so sharp it hurt. I took one shaky step backward. Then the door exploded inward. A massive shadow surged into the room, bigger than the creature we'd fought before. Fur matte black, eyes burning red, teeth long enough to reflect the firelight in thin silver lines. The poker fell from my hands. My scream lodged inside my throat. The beast lunged. I didn't have time to think, only react. Throwing myself sideways, crashing into a table, splinters biting into my skin. The creature's claws tore through the air where I'd been standing a heartbeat before. My body screamed in pain, but adrenaline shoved me to my feet. I stumbled toward the back door, only for the creature to block it with terrifying speed. Its growl shook dust from the ceiling beams. Saliva dripped from its jaws, sizzling where it hit the floor. I pressed myself against the far wall, trembling. Where was he? Why wasn't he here? Why had he left me alone? The creature crouched, ready to strike. I closed my eyes. Then the world split open. A roar, deeper, louder, filled with violence and fury and something primal, shook the cabin. The windows rattled. The fire guttered. My heart stopped and then soared. Him. Before I could even turn, a silver blur crashed through what was left of the doorway and slammed into the black-furred predator with bone-crushing force. The impact shook the entire cabin. Two massive wolves, one shadow black, one storm silver, tore into each other with claws and teeth in a frenzy of moonlit violence. Wood splintered, furniture shattered, sparks flew from the hearth as bodies slammed against the stones. He'd come back. He'd come back for me. The black beast lunged, jaws locking around his shoulder. He snarled, twisting, slamming the creature into the wall so hard dust rained from the rafters. Blood, his blood, splattered across the floor. "No, no!" I screamed. He glanced toward me for one split second. His golden eyes, glowing brighter than fire, found mine. That moment cost him. The black creature lunged for his throat. "Stop!" I screamed, sobbing, lunging forward without thinking. And something inside me, something I didn't understand, shattered. The air cracked. The fire roared higher. The cabin trembled like the forest itself bowed under a sudden force. Both wolves froze. My breath came in broken gasps. "Don't hurt him." The bond thrummed, violent, electric, ancient, rushing from my chest like a wave of heat. It wasn't visible, but it felt visible, like light pouring from me. The black beast faltered. Just long enough. The silver wolf tore free, lunged, and threw the creature to the ground with a snarl so brutal the cabin shook. In one final savage motion, he clamped his jaws down on the beast's neck. A sickening crack, a whimper, then nothing. Silence. The silver wolf, my wolf, staggered backward, panting, blood dripping from wounds across his shoulders and chest. I dropped to my knees. He shifted mid-stumble, collapsing against the wall in human form, trembling, bruised, covered in blood, far too much blood. "Ilara," he gasped. I crawled to him, hands shaking. "Why did you leave me? Why would you—" His eyes closed in pain, not physical pain, but something deeper. "I heard you. I felt you. Your fear. It hit me like a blade through my spine. I couldn't stay away. I tried. But the bond, Ilara, I can't fight it. Not when you're in danger." I cupped his face, tears streaming down my cheeks. "I didn't want you to fight it." He swallowed hard, eyes searching mine. "I thought keeping distance would save you. But staying away from you?" His voice broke. It nearly killed me. My breath hitched. He lifted a shaking hand to my cheek, thumb brushing a streak of ash across my skin. "I'll never leave you again. Not if the entire pack, every hunter, every cursed creature in these woods comes for us. I can't. I won't." His voice was a vow, a surrender, a confession. "You came back," I whispered. "I always will." Our foreheads touched. His breath shuddered against my lips, warm and broken. "Ilara, I tried to choose your safety over the bond, but I can't. I'm not strong enough." "You're bleeding," I whispered, hands trembling as I moved to examine his wounds, his fingers wrapped gently around my wrist. "You're alive," he murmured. "That's all that matters." My chest tightened painfully. "You almost died. So did you." His eyes burned into mine. "And I'd rather die 1,000 times than let that happen again." My breath broke. "Don't say things like that. It's the truth." For a long moment we just breathed, shaking, alive, together. And in that silence the bond pulsed between us, warm and fierce and undeniable. He pressed his forehead to mine again. "Ilara, don't ever ask me to walk away again. I can't. Not anymore." My voice was a whisper. "I won't." Outside, the storm began to break. Inside, the fire steadied. And in the ruin of the cabin, surrounded by shattered wood and fading smoke, I realized something. The danger hadn't pushed us apart. It had fused us together, whether we were ready for it or not. Lyra didn't realize she'd stopped breathing until Cade's hand brushed her elbow. The touch was light, almost nothing, but it sent a violent shiver through her ribs. He noticed. She knew he noticed, because something in his eyes flickered, softened, heated. His voice dropped. "You ran barefoot into a storm for a stranger. Don't pretend you're not brave." "I'm not," she whispered. "You are." The certainty in his tone did something dangerous to her. He guided her beneath a tilted pine, half shielding her from the worst of the rain. It wasn't shelter. It wasn't even comfort. It was something else entirely, something she had spent years pretending didn't exist. Safety. How could a man she'd met less than an hour ago feel like the one place her fear couldn't reach? She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hide the shaking in her hands. It didn't work. Cade saw everything. She suspected he always would. He bent slightly, lowering himself to her height. "Lyra." The way he said her name, like it meant something, made her throat close. "When that wolf came at me," Cade said quietly, "you ran toward danger, not away." "That wasn't bravery. I was terrified." "Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision you made anyway." She swallowed hard. Rain trickled down her cheek, disguising the tears threatening to gather. "You don't even know me," she whispered. A slow, unreadable breath left him. "I know enough." Another flash split the sky, illuminating the forest in stark silver. Cade's outline glowed like he wasn't made of flesh and bone but something older, harder, carved by storms instead of touched by them. And Lyra, shaking, soaked, trembling, felt the truth settle somewhere impossibly deep. She should have been terrified of him, but she wasn't. She was terrified of how familiar he felt. "Let's get you inside," he murmured. "Inside? Where?" He lifted his chin toward the dark line of trees. "My cabin isn't far. You're freezing, and I'm not letting you walk home in this storm." Her heart stuttered. "Cade, I hardly know you." He didn't smile, not exactly, but his voice gentled, wrapped around her like a warm coat. "Then get to know me." The thunder rolled again, closer this time, making the ground tremble. Lyra's pulse followed suit. She could say no. She could walk away. She could pretend the last hour hadn't happened. But when Cade extended his hand, palm open, rain sliding down his fingers, her own hand moved before her mind could stop it. Their fingers touched. And the world, rain, storm, breath, went still. A shock tore up her arm, hot and electric, like a spark searching for the other half of its circuit. Cade inhaled sharply, his jaw clenching as if fighting something primal. "What? What was that?" she whispered. His voice came out rough, too raw to hide. "Fate." Lyra's breath hitched. Cade closed his hand gently around hers, not trapping, not demanding, simply holding. "Come with me," he said, quieter now, almost reverent. "Please." Her pulse thundered in her ears, and she did. She stepped toward him, toward danger, toward safety, toward the one man she should never trust, and already couldn't walk away from. The forest had turned into a battlefield overnight. Moonlight, fractured by the storm, painted long shadows across the wet undergrowth. Cade and I moved cautiously, every snap of twig and rustle of leaves setting our nerves on fire. The hunters were close. They always were. They had followed the bond, and now their numbers had grown. Cade's hand never left mine. His grip was firm, grounding me, reminding me I wasn't alone. But the moment we crossed the fallen log, a flare of movement caught my eye, a shadow that moved too fast, too precise. "They're here," Cade whispered, jaw tight, eyes scanning every tree line. Before I could ask how many, a low hiss echoed through the forest, followed by the snapping of branches. My heart jumped into my throat. "Split," Cade commanded. "I'll draw them away." "No," I shouted, clutching his arm. "We stay together." He shook his head. His amber eyes, bright and impossible, softened for a fraction of a second. You cannot be with me in this fight. If you stay, they'll use you against me. I don't care, I said, voice trembling. I'm not leaving you. The hunters burst from the shadows, clad in black leather and armed with silver-tipped weapons. Cade's body shifted mid-step, muscles coiling, fur erupting across his skin as he transformed with terrifying precision. A wolf-man of raw power, ready for war. I froze for a moment, mesmerized by the transformation. His golden eyes locked on mine, fierce, protective, magnetic. Go to the cabin, he growled. Now! I hesitated. He wasn't asking. He was commanding. Then a hunter aimed, silver-tipped spear poised to strike. My heart lurched. Without thinking, I leapt forward, throwing myself in front of Cade. The spear grazed my shoulder, tearing my jacket. Pain flared, but adrenaline surged. Cade howled, a sound that ripped through the forest like lightning. The hunters staggered at the raw force of it. In a blink, he was among them, claws flashing, every movement precise, every strike lethal. I scrambled backward, clutching the talisman he had given me, praying it still had power. One hunter broke from the pack, aiming directly for me. I froze. Then a blur of silver and gold collided with him. Cade intercepted with brutal force, throwing the hunter to the ground with a strength I had never seen from a human. The hunter scrambled to rise, but Cade's growl stopped him before he could strike again. You won't touch her, Cade snarled. The fight became a blur. Shadow, claw, silver, blood, howls. I could barely breathe, barely think, yet I couldn't look away. My pulse matched his, bond pulsing violently between us. A hunter lunged from behind, blade aiming for Cade's back. I screamed, and the wolfman spun, snapping the attacker's wrist in one fluid motion. But it wasn't enough. One of the hunters circled around, dagger raised to my chest. I felt my breath catch. My pulse thundered in my ears. Cade, I screamed. He turned. Our eyes met, and I felt it. The bond. The pull. The connection that had started as something I couldn't name, now roaring like a storm. He leapt, faster than I could comprehend, crashing into the hunter. Silver and gold, teeth and claws, fury and protection. The hunter fell, lifeless. Cade landed on the ground, chest heaving, blood dripping from scratches across his arm. I ran to him, ignoring the danger for the first time. I dropped to my knees beside him, hands brushing his fur, now receding as he shifted back to human form. Cade, are you okay? I whispered, voice trembling. He swallowed, breathing heavy, but his eyes found mine. Golden fire blazing, alive, untamed. I'm fine. Because you're alive. Don't ever scare me like that again, I said, tears streaming, voice breaking. He reached for me, pulling me into a fierce embrace. I won't. Not again. I swear it. Outside, the remaining hunters hesitated. Something in the air, a warning they couldn't understand, stopped them. The bond, the pull, the undeniable force between us radiated outward. One by one, they retreated, melting into the shadows. We didn't move. We couldn't. Even the forest seemed to pause, acknowledging the bond, the fight, the victory. Finally, he lifted his forehead to mine. You're mine, he whispered. Not a claim, not a threat, a truth. I closed my eyes, heart swelling. And I'm yours. For the first time, neither of us feared the bond. We embraced it, accepted it, became it. The storm had passed. The forest was quiet now, save for the rustle of leaves in the wind and our shared ragged breaths. We had survived, together. And nothing, not hunters, not pack rules, not curses, could ever undo what had formed between us in the storm, in the fight, in the fire of danger and desire. The first rays of dawn filtered through the dense canopy, turning the forest into a tapestry of gold and green. The storm was gone. The rain had washed the world clean, leaving it smelling of earth, moss, and the faint tang of pine. For the first time in days, I could breathe without fear. Cade stood beside me, shirt torn and damp, but alive. The cuts along his arms had begun to scab, and his golden eyes, now soft, warm, and entirely human in expression, watched me as I stretched, shaking off the tension that had held my muscles stiff. "You look like hell," he said, voice rough but teasing. "I feel like hell," I replied, smirking despite the ache in my body. He stepped closer, brushing rain-soaked hair from my face, his fingers lingering against my cheek. "But you survived. That's what matters. You're mine, Alara. Nothing can change that now." I swallowed, feeling the pull in my chest, the bond thrumming gently, a steady heartbeat I could feel in my own veins. "And I'm yours. Not just because I have to be, but because I want to be." A low rumble escaped him, a sound halfway between a laugh and a growl. His hand found mine, interlacing fingers. The touch was electric, grounding, safe, and intimate all at once. The forest seemed to exhale with us, calm and forgiving. Even the distant mountains, once dark and threatening, now stood like silent guardians, their peaks dusted with snow, serene and timeless. We walked together side by side toward the cabin that had been both a sanctuary and a battlefield. Each step was easy, each movement synchronized in a way that spoke of a connection deeper than either of us had known we could feel. Inside, the cabin smelled faintly of smoke and damp wood. Cade lit a fire, its warmth seeping into the corners, filling the room with light and life. He moved with practiced ease, as if survival had always been second nature to him, but now his every glance sought me, and his every action spoke of devotion and care. I sat by the window, watching the sunrise, the sky painted with pinks and golds, and felt a quiet swell in my chest. All the terror, the nights spent trembling under rain and claws, the fear of hunters and packs and curses, it all seemed to fade beneath the light of the morning. Cade joined me, sitting close enough that our knees touched. His hand brushed mine, lightly, almost hesitant at first, then with steady assurance. I leaned slightly into him, letting the warmth of his body seep into mine, the bond pulsing gently beneath my skin. "You know," he murmured, voice soft, almost vulnerable. "The pack, they won't object to us. Not anymore. Once they saw what we went through, once they saw the bond, it's accepted. You're safe here, fully." I turned to him, eyes wide. "Safe? After everything?" He nodded, expression firm but gentle. "Yes. I won't let anyone take you from me. Not hunters, not curses, not even fate itself." I felt a thrill of relief, mingled with something deeper, a warmth that went straight to my soul. The pull between us, once chaotic and terrifying, now felt steady, natural, inevitable. It was no longer something to fear. It was home. "Then we start over?" I asked, voice small, hopeful. He smiled, a real human smile, full of warmth and mischief. "We start everything over. Together." The next hours passed in quiet intimacy. We cleaned the cabin, tended to his injuries, and I even managed to patch my own scratched shoulder with trembling hands. There were no grand gestures, no declarations to the world. Just a shared peace, the kind that comes after storms, literal and emotional. Outside, the sun climbed higher, melting the last of the storm clouds. Birds returned to the trees, their songs tentative at first, then bold and joyous. The forest, too, seemed to celebrate, breathing life and renewal into every leaf and branch. At one point, Cade took my hand and held it in both of his, thumb stroking the back of my hand in slow circles. "Alara," he whispered, voice low, intimate. "Whatever comes next, whatever challenges, hunters, or curses, I will face them all with you. You are my bond, my mate, my everything." I leaned into him, resting my head against his shoulder. "And you are mine, always." The bond thrummed faintly, a living pulse between us. Not dangerous now, not chaotic. It was steady, comforting, unbreakable. The cabin, once a place of fear and isolation, was now filled with warmth and life. The storm had passed, the danger had been faced, and we had survived. Not just individually, but together. Cade leaned down, brushing his lips lightly against my temple. The touch sent a shiver through me, not of fear, but of belonging. I closed my eyes, savoring the moment, committing it to memory. The warmth, the quiet, the sense of finally being home. We would leave the forest someday, explore the world beyond the mountains and rivers, but for now, this was enough. Just us, the bond, the sunrise, the fire, the quiet. And in that peace, I understood something profoundly simple and yet impossibly vast. No matter the storms we'd face, no matter the dangers, no matter the darkness lurking in the world outside, we had each other. That was all that mattered. Cade tightened his hold, and I leaned into him. The bond thrummed faintly, softly like a heartbeat in harmony with mine. And for the first time since the world had tilted beneath us, I felt truly, completely safe, truly, completely loved. And in the light of the rising sun, there was no fear left, only the beginning of everything we would face together.